Hello everyone. Back again with film recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the thriller suspense films from 2023, titled Strange Darling. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The movie opens with a text explaining that between 2018 and 2020, a prolific serial killer went on a violent rampage across several states in the US. Starting in Denver, Colorado, then moved to Grand Lake, and spread into Wyoming and Idaho, eventually ending in the dense forests of Oregon. Although this movie tells the story of that serial killer, it is completely fictional and not based on true events. The story is presented in 6 chapters and an epilogue, which are not in chronological order. The story begins in Chapter 3, where we see a blonde woman named Lady driving on an isolated road in Oregon. A van is speeding towards her, and we see a man named Demon snorting cocaine while driving. It turns out Demon is chasing after Lady, and wants to kill her. He soon stops his van, and gets out with a shotgun. He then shoots at Lady's car from a distance, causing her to crash her vehicle and fall over. As she gets out of the car, Demon tries to hit her with his vehicle. However, before the man can get her, she runs into the nearby woods to save her life. Shortly after, she finds an alcohol bottle in the distance and picks it up. Lady then rests in the woods, and begins to cry due to the pain in her wounded ear. She drinks, then puts the alcohol in her ear to disinfect the wound. After feeling a little better, she starts running away again, while Demon is also in the same forest looking for her. Soon after, Lady arrives in an open field and, after climbing over a fence, hears a radio station playing from speakers placed nearby. There's a house in the distance, which makes her feel a bit hopeful. She then approaches the house, and bangs at the front door. An old couple named Frederick and Genevieve open the door, and Lady begs them to help her. The scene then shifts to Chapter 5, where we see Lady hiding in a small space while trying to remain calm. Meanwhile, Demon is wandering around the house with a gun, looking for her. He searches every room and corner, shooting at numerous boxes and cupboards. But he still can't find her, which frustrates him. As he walks through the kitchen, we notice Frederick's lifeless body lying on the floor in a pool of blood. After a while, Demon proceeds to leave the house, and Lady breathes a sigh of relief, thinking she's finally safe. The man then goes outside into the yard filled with chickens and begins to smoke. But he's certain that the girl is still in the house, so he goes back inside. He shoots at a chest freezer, which causes Lady to scream, and Demon immediately gives her a hard punch. The scene then cuts to Chapter 1, where it all began. We see Demon and Lady arriving in front of a hotel, and it turns out they had just met in a bar. They start vaping and drinking in the car, and Demon suggests that they get a room. However, she asks him to stay in the car for a while and just make out, while we see the man's shotgun hidden in the backseat. Demon says that if she's uncomfortable, they can simply exchange numbers and meet a few days later. However, she doesn't want that either. After this, Lady reveals that the real issue is safety, explaining that it is dangerous for a woman to lock herself in a room with a stranger. She discusses how men assume that women do not like doing this, but the truth is they are simply afraid of being murdered. She also tells Demon that he seems like a nice guy, but you never really know. Lady then questions if he is a serial killer, to which he laughs and says no. This finally seems to persuade Lady, and she agrees to go to the room. The scene abruptly shifts inside a room, with Demon handcuffing and choking Lady. But it turns out to be just part of their intimacy. Soon, she asks him to stop, and he obliges. Lady then wonders why it isn't working, so Demon claims that it was her idea, but Lady concludes that the problem must be him. She states that she might need someone else, which upsets the man. Moments later, Demon tries to caress her, but she gets annoyed and pushes him off. This enrages him, so he places the handcuffs back on Lady. Surprisingly, he starts spanking her and declares that he is now in control. Lady begs him to let her go, but the creepy man responds that he doesn't need her permission, and also demands that she call him sir. He calls her a mentally sick woman, and then threatens to cut her up with a knife, and leave her to bleed to death. Hearing this, the girl begs him not to kill her and begins to cry. And when she suddenly says, "Mr. Snuffleupagus," he stops. The scene then shifts back to an earlier scene in a car, where they are talking about how much Lady wants him to roleplay. Turns out she wants him to be violent and assertive while they are making love. Furthermore, she wants him to continue even if she protests and cries. Demon eventually agrees, because he wants to sleep with her at any cost. The two then agree that if Lady wishes to stop at any time, her safe word will be Mr. Snuffleupagus. Returning to the hotel room, Lady is still crying, so Demon apologizes in case he went too far and hurt her. However, Lady soon laughs and admits that she was also acting. Demon wonders why she said the safe word in such a case, and she responds that she just wants a little break. We are then taken to chapter 4, where we see the old couple, Genevieve and Frederick, peacefully having their breakfast, and they appear to be a happy couple. But then they notice Lady frantically banging on their door. Genevieve thinks she looks crazy, so the couple grabs bear spray just in case. Seeing that she's just a harmless woman, they invite her inside and ask what happened. Lady reveals that she was chased by a man in a pickup truck, and asks if they have a gun. However, Genevieve reveals that they don't have a gun. Suddenly, Lady begins screaming from the pain of her wound, so Genevieve decides to go get some painkillers for her. Lady eats the leftover breakfast, while Frederick suggests they can call the police, but Lady says that's not necessary. Despite this, the old man attempts to contact the police, and Lady furiously asks him not to. Meanwhile, Genevieve finally finds some painkillers in her bathroom and heads downstairs. But to her horror, she finds her husband being brutally stabbed and tortured by Lady. The old man calls out for his wife before eventually collapsing, dead on the floor. Lady says that she didn't want to kill him, but she had to. Up next, Lady decides to lock Genevieve inside the storm shelter outside. But as soon as they reach the open field, the old woman seizes the opportunity to run into the woods. Just then, Lady notices that Demon is nearby. She rushes back inside the house to protect herself. She gets the bear spray, and sits in the freezer. At this moment, she hears Demon breaking in, so she quickly closes the freezer door to hide. The scene then cuts to chapter 2, where we see Lady and Demon in the hotel room again. Lady takes out a small packet of cocaine from her bag and suggests they try it. Demon is reluctant, but she tries to convince him by saying it turns her on. But since it is her birthday tonight, Demon reluctantly agrees to try it. The two then snort some cocaine, and begin passionately making out. But not long after, Lady abruptly stops, and begins putting on her boots, which confuses the man. He thinks she's just playing games with him, and says he's done with her. However, she furiously tells him that he can only be done when she says so. Regardless, Demon puts on his clothes, and tells her to find her own way home, as he's fed up with her behavior. A frustrated Lady rushes to the bathroom with her bag and slaps herself. She then takes out a knife and a taser from her bag, and returns outside. Next, she notices Demon leaving the room, but he's disoriented and collapses on the floor with foam coming out of his mouth. Lady drags him back to the room. She then takes off his clothes, and reveals that the drug she gave him was ketamine, while she only took the cocaine. Next, Lady informs him that she wasn't trying to do this, and just wanted to have a good time. She then gags his mouth with a sock, and uses the knife to carve something into his chest. After she's done, she goes to the bathroom again and removes the red wig, revealing her blonde hair. Lady checks Demon's wallet and finds some cash, which she pockets. But she soon notices a police badge as well, which scares the shit out of her. Shortly after, she returns to the room to clean the blood from Demon's chest, and we notice that she has carved the words EL into it. She then picks up a knife to finish him off, right when this happens. Demon shoots her in the ear with his gun. He fires more, but she dodges the bullets and escapes. Lady runs outside, half naked and bleeding from one of her ears. She eventually reaches the hotel's reception and begs for help. Meanwhile, Demon is still in his hotel room, struggling to get up. He snorts the cocaine left by Lady, which seems to energize him. On the other hand, Lady informs two staff members about the man who attacked her. The receptionist also suggests calling the police. But then, Lady then requests the other employee's car keys and clothes. The employee obediently hands them over, after which Lady gets into the car and drives away, leading to the pursuit from earlier. The scene then moves to chapter 6, where Lady is unconscious in the freezer after being punched by Demon. Afterward, he uses a handcuff to tie her to the freezer door so she cannot escape. Demon then calls his colleague and identifies himself as RC. He gives his colleague his current address, and requests that he come over right away, stating that he's in trouble. Shortly after, Lady regains consciousness, and Demon mentions that he finally got her. Demon asks her if she is the notorious serial killer, known as Electric Lady. However, Lady doesn't answer his question, and states that she doesn't care about going to jail, she just doesn't want to die. She mentions that she used to watch true crime shows, and was inspired to commit murder by the infamous serial killer Gary Gilmore. Moments later, Lady suddenly begins crying and expresses her regret for her actions. She begins to cry while singing a love song. For a brief moment, Demon seems distracted by her weird behavior, and Lady takes advantage of this by using the bear spray on him. As he becomes disoriented, she pulls him close to her, and brutally bites his neck. The psycho girl then screams and collapses into the freezer, exhausted, as she watches Demon take his final breath. Once Lady calms down, she gets out of the freezer, and pulls Demon's dead body towards her. She then steals a gun hidden in his shoes and keeps it for herself. At this moment, Lady hears police sirens in the distance and realizes she's going to be in trouble. She thus lowers her pants and lies on the ground, pretending to be a victim. Two cops named Pete and Gail arrive at the scene. It turns out that they are Demon's colleagues, and they are shocked to see him dead. Pete begins to speculate about what exactly happened at the scene. Gail notices Lady's distressed state and believes that she has been assaulted. However, Pete remains uncertain about it, as he knows Demon couldn't do such a thing. Gail attempts to unlock Lady's handcuffs, but Pete asks her to wait for the EMTs and homicide to arrive. However, Gail claims that it will take at least an hour, and the girl requires immediate medical attention. She eventually uncuffs Lady, who claims that the man chased and assaulted her while he was high on cocaine. Pete doesn't seem to believe it, but when he searches Demon's pockets, he discovers the cocaine, which shocks him. Despite this, Pete suspects something is amiss, and suggests waiting for the others according to protocol. However, Gail continues to argue with him, so the senior cop has to agree with her, despite the fact that he stated that they do not know whether Lady is a victim or not. The two then take Lady to their car, and start driving to the hospital. But after a while, they come across Genevieve, who frantically explains about Lady. But then this happens. Lady then points her gun at the officers, while Pete is annoyed by Gail's stupidity, and the latter begs the killer to turn herself in. However, Lady reveals that she is the infamous Electric Lady, which leaves the two cops in shock. She then allows Gail to run away since she showed her mercy earlier. The genius officer happily takes this chance and flees into the woods, abandoning her colleague to his fate. Lady then orders Pete to continue driving, and he has no choice but to comply. Up next, the scene cuts to the epilogue, in which Pete pulls over on a desolate road after Lady orders him to stop. He asks if she's really the Electric Lady, and she says yes. Pete then asks why she killed all those people, to which Lady responds that sometimes when she looks at people, she sees the devil in them. And to wrap things up, she shoots the officer to death as well. In the final scene, Lady walks down the road until another truck comes along. She pretends to be the victim again and begs for help. A kind woman approaches her, and allows her to board the truck. A few moments later, Lady shows her true colors, but things don't go her way this time. The driver Lady shoots her first. She then calls the cops to report that she shot someone in self-defense, and is on her way to the station. The movie ends as the woman drives away, while the serial killer slowly succumbs to her injuries. Okay guys, thanks for watching. See you again in the next video.